episode 8 of Communications Junction podcast. This is a special Marketing Week edition. We're sitting here at the Hotel Grand Chancellor for Marketing Week 2011. I'm Chia, and with me today is Prashant Hari. Prashant, Praz, nice to meet you. Nice to see you here today.
Yes,
so,
likewise.
although we have met before, sorry about the sound of cutlery clinking away in the background. So, Prashant, who are you and what do you do?
Me? I work full-time as innovation specialist for Colmar Brunton Research, and I also work as a hobby job innovation specialist for Cloud9 Creations.
Fantastic. Now, Prashant, in one of your job descriptions on your LinkedIn, you do describe yourself as a global trend hunter. What exactly do you do? What exactly does a global trend hunter do, and how do you go? And I guess how do you go about identifying trends?
A global trend hunter, or as one of my gurus, Mike Walsh, calls it, digital anthropologist. It's basically the study of the internet. I've been in the internet space as a child since I was 13 years old, so I've sort of seen the evolution of the internet from the days of when forums came out to ICQ to now what's become serious business with the social media space. So a trend hunter really spots trends that are happening within the technology space, within the new media space, and sees which trend is going to hit critical mass and what impact that's going to have on day-to-day business.
So in terms of trends, what trends are you seeing coming through at the moment, I guess, and also what emerging behaviours are you seeing coming through, I guess, as a result of social media?
Constant evolution, I think, is a massive trend I'm seeing, whether it's the platforms for technology, like tablet devices and mobile phones, for example, and I see innovation happening faster. So even if I look at the example of the iPad, we've now got the iPad 3 announced for 2012 already, potentially. So it's bridging a gap where earlier on evolutions within media platforms like television, radio, newspapers used to happen a lot slower. You know, you'd have one form of a medium introduced, and then for about 10 years you wouldn't actually see much of an evolution within that platform. We're now at a critical phase where evolutions within technology platforms are happening quicker, and even evolutions within social networks are happening quicker. So a social network may be one way one week, then you wake up the next week and all of a sudden that network's changed even in a slight way, but that also means that the way we interact with that technology, human behaviour changes as well.
And do you think you talked about the impact of that innovation cycle is I guess getting much shorter?
Yep.
On the front end, is it actually getting shorter on the back end as well? Are we actually getting bored of technology faster and looking for the next big thing?
I think consumers are just going with the journey. I think businesses are just starting to take it as serious business now. But from a consumer point of view, I think consumers have been jumping on the bandwagon as far as embracing these technologies for a while now.
So what do you think's actually been the catalyst for consumers actually getting on board with technology faster?
I think it's an exciting time where, especially with the new media platforms and social networks, it's almost like, I personally believe it's driven by Andy Warhol's famous saying, in the future everyone will be a celebrity for 15 minutes. And I think a lot of people have kind of caught on, wait a minute, this is two-way collaboration, this is a two-way environment. If I actually create something cool on the internet, or if I actually make an impact on the internet, I will get recognised for it. And all these technologies and all these various technologies as well as networks which impact human behaviour, I think together are giving people that freedom, ultimately.
Do you think there's any danger that we're going to be fetishising technology and social networks, and is there a danger of that actually then diluting what the message is if we focus so much on the technology and the platforms?
In the initial run, yeah, I think there will be a bit of just the wow factor with the shiny new toy, but it will get to a point where, you know, we won't still be talking about Facebook or Twitter as excited as we were talking about it a year ago even, mainly because just like any other media platform, they just become integrated with our day-to-day social life. You know, so in the morning you may wake up, you may watch the television for 15 minutes, you may check your Facebook for half an hour, you may check your tweets for 15 minutes, so that just becomes integrated with day-to-day life. Then once something becomes that integrated with day-to-day life, you sort of, you know, don't feel the need to talk about it and wow about it so much. Is there a dark side to all of this? Yes, to an extent there is. There is the rise of, you know, if you look at what happened in London, for example, I mean, you can't 100% blame social media for that, but to some extent there is this, you know, if if people start organising themselves in various communities of all different kinds, out of a creative passion or out of a hobby or for business, there's also a side where people can start organising themselves to do criminal activity, for example, or terrorism. So yeah, there is two angles to that. Whether you can blame social media for that 100%, I think that's the undefined area. So there's a lot of grey. I
think for me though, with everything that's happened in the London riots, it really highlighted something which I've long believed, that your social media itself isn't inherently good or evil.
Yeah.
It is just a platform.
It is
the same way like the telephone is just a platform.
Exactly.
You can't say that, oh my God, because that's doing evil and that's what's causing the riots and that's what's causing all this bad stuff that's going on.
No,
it's
I
how
agree
people
with
actually use that. So
yeah.
But I'm just wondering, are we far away from actually understanding that? There's still so much, I guess, fear mongering around social media out there, particularly around governments and well, I guess particularly around governments who still don't know how to control, and by any means should they actually be trying to control social media?
In my humble opinion, no one has ever been able to control the internet. It's always come about in different ways. It's always caused digital disruptions across many industries. But when it came to the question of control, I don't think it's not so much about control as it is about understanding it. And earlier on, if the tools of creation were there, and which is what's driven by consumers and by people, everyday people who sort of get on these networks and they want to create things. That creation has impacts across the board. So, and then on the other hand of the paradigm, you've got businesses and governments who have been a little bit slower to catch on to these networks, and now I think the tools of understanding these networks are actually emerging, and they're emerging quicker too. So originally what powered social media is what a wonderful author called Charles Leadbetter calls I think. I think revolves around social media as me going on the internet using a network to create things. That's what's creating this mass abundance of data. Now, to understand this mass abundance of data, his book is titled We Think. We Think means you get a combination of different talents, whether it's the internet geek, an academic, a statistician, and a researcher, and a marketer, collaboratively working together to actually understand, right, what is actually happening with all this data, what story does it tell? So I think that's the sort of two different mindsets we're heading down. I think is powered by IG, which is instant gratification, people wanting their 15 minutes of fame. And then on the other hand, from a business point of view, right, a consumer is giving away this much data about themselves, what food they like, what they're buying, how much they paid for it, all their interest, entire profiling data, everything. And to understand all of those various data points, you need different skill sets to actually make sense of it all.
Something you just said about the fact that the internet does enable and empower people to actually go down and create content.
Yeah.
There was actually a couple of days ago in marketing. I wasn't actually in this session, but John Hardigan, the chairman of News Limited in Australia, was talking about, from what I can understand from the Twitter stream, was talking along the lines of that in the future, news journos are the people best placed to actually control the internet and create the content because they've already got that critical eye.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Do you think that I guess that the professionals are still going to be very much in control of what happens on the internet?
A professional is always going to be a professional in a certain field, but I sort of believe that we've been brought up as human beings to believe that only a handful of people are skilled at something and everyone else isn't. And I kind of believe that that's not entirely true. And what social media actually allows is, on one hand, there's the argument that amateur views or bloggers or people who are just creating things on the internet but haven't had formal training around that area are actually polluting what serious professionals think. But I also then look at something like Wikipedia, which allows on that wisdom of crowds and everyone's views collaborated together in one platform. And I think that's actually, it gives you a more holistic view, as in, this is what an academic professional thinks and this is what an end user from a completely different angle thinks. So it's a combination of those views together, I think, will be the future of even journalism. Because at the moment, if someone's on the spot at a location where something's happening, a journalist isn't there, but someone else who's got a mobile phone can take a photo, quickly upload a quick photo as well as a blog post and go bang, and that information may actually spread faster than what an established news outlet could do. And I think that's just the changing face of a lot of industries.
I think, the classic example of that is the plane crashing into the Hudson River.
Yeah.
But then also another example is you and I sitting here right now, and the ability for us to be able to record this conversation and then get it up there and online published, in the next half hour.
Well, yeah, in effect, you're a journalist yourself, aren't you, right now?
Yeah, exactly. And we all are. It's the whole idea of citizen journalism.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the idea. You wrote a post a little while ago about the idea of social karma versus social media. Can you tell us a bit about that?
See, media to me gives the implication that it's all about and only about advertising, and it's about broadcast. And I think initially mediums like Facebook have done Facebook ads. I think Twitter's still trying to figure out how to monetize itself. And I personally believe that the real value in social media doesn't lie in advertising on the platform, like you would do with an established broadcast medium, but the actual value lies in the power of the conversation. So social karma sort of revolves around the theory that, right, initially, karma's about cause and effect. What goes around comes around. So if, for example, someone has bought a product or a service from a brand or from a particular outlet, and they feel like they haven't got their money's worth, then they actually they've got the ability to go online and leave a comment about it. And in some cases that may be a negative comment. I think that's where the scare lies with a lot of big corporations. But on the other hand, the ability to then leverage that person's comment, come back and actually do a full circle of cause and effect. Hey mate, we're really sorry that you didn't get the service that you paid for, but what we're going to do here is A, B, C, D. So in effect, it's actually just customer service, but I think the key change here is speed, where customer service earlier on, you'd have to rely on quite a wait sometimes to actually get it. Back in the day, all we could do is write a letter, post that letter off to the corporation and say, I've received this product and I wasn't happy with it. You may get a generic letter back. Now with, one tweet or one Facebook comment, for example, if that person's influential on social media, that to the actual end brand is like a wake-up call. I actually have to become human and answer this comment in a very human manner, not with a generic comment. I think that's what I see as social karma, the cause and effect of ongoing dialogue.
But you mentioned there, if you're influential, you may get a response back. But how about for the person who isn't influential, who maybe only has a couple of people following them? They don't quite have the same clout score as someone else. Like I guess you or I. So they may not be able to get that satisfaction from the company. All you need to do is look at clout perks, even, where clout perks will only reward you if clout views you as being influential in your network. So anyone who doesn't have the time or the energy to do that, but is also, I guess, as equal to you and I as a customer, they're not going to get the same love. So
I think
it's a bit of a dilemma.
Someone who isn't quite as influential on social media, the chances of them following people who are influential on social media are quite high. So sometimes if you're not very influential on social media, but you might be following someone who's got 100,000 followers, a lot of people I know actually ask that person to retweet them and say, hey mate, can you help me retweet this? So all of a sudden that person may have 50 followers, but if someone with 200,000 followers decides to retweet that person, the influence of that comment all of a sudden gets to another level. So I think that's what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah. That's interesting because we talk about social media as being this great equalizer, giving everyone a similar voice. But if that's the case, then the people who are influencers, they're only going to become more and more powerful, I guess. Interesting.
I mean, to a certain level, and if you study all the people that have become very influential on social media, it's those that have shared things freely. So there's two angles to it, I guess. I mean, even if you're not very influential on social media, but you found the brand on Twitter, you can still go at tralala and the comment that you've got for the brand, and that's in the public eye, for example. So that's still something that I believe will get picked up somewhere along the way. Especially with a lot of companies now going for the whole monitoring angle, actually monitoring what's happening in this affair and going, right, what's being said about my brand in this space and who said it and how influential are they and what's their gripe and stuff. A lot of people talk about B2B in the social media space. A colleague of mine, Mahe Foliaki, also known as Iconic 88, he always calls it P2P, and I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It's person to person. Person to person.
Because I think where I work, we definitely take the approach that anything which comes through which is a genuine inquiry on social media gets answered, no matter who it's from. It gets answered the exact same way. Okay. I think one thing which we've also been very big on, and which I guess a lot of companies should start to look at is to actually take ownership of the issue as well.
Yeah.
And not just thinking, okay, well, that's outside our realm, we'll just, flick off an email to another department.
Yeah.
If you are going to take on this inquiry, you need to actually own the inquiry and own the problem as well, and actually take it to the ends of the earth to actually get that resolved.
Yeah, and sometimes for a lot of customers, and I personally believe that, it's just the idea that I've been purchasing stuff from this brand for 25 years, and I've actually got a lot of feedback to give. They just want to let that feedback out, I think, and actually let the company know what they've thought and this and that, and actually have someone listen back. And I think that in itself sometimes causes a soothing effect. And again, it comes back to that karma. So what, initially, if there is a lot of flack against the company, once they actually engage authentically, I think over time that becomes a positive karma. I think, and after that bit of negative phase, there will be a phase where all of a sudden there is this whole burst of positive comments like doing a well done job, guys, tra-la-la. You can't always please everyone either, is the other thing. So if you're a company and you offer something very specific, that's also something to keep in mind, that as a company you can do the very best you can and engage with people authentically and things, but obviously not everyone's the same in the world, so you can't always please everyone.
Now, tell us a little bit about Cloud9, and which I guess is your side project along with your day job.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of that, from what I understand, is to do with digital comics.
It's my weekend hat.
Yeah.
Look, Cloud9 was really, like I said, I'm a big fan of the internet space. I've been in it since I was 13, mainly because I had difficulty learning in school. So for me, my education became my video games. I was blogging at 13 as well, so while I was only getting 2 or 3% in maths, I could go home and write, 15 pages about Ben-Hur because I was passionate about movies. So Cloud9, when I sort of a couple of years ago, a colleague of mine, Benjamin Slovak, he's been in the video gaming industry since '92, and with comic book titles as well for a long time. And it was the idea that, wait a minute, comic books, there was an opportunity basically there to turn comic books into digital. So instead of doing what the Marvels and the DCs do, which is very standardized, I think it's beautiful. I'm a big comic book and movies fan, but we saw a real space in the independent comics because I think that's the area we're really passionate about. And yeah, look, we Ben said, right, let's get an app together which publishes comic books digitally. And I said, well, that's fantastic because that's that's going to leverage it. Bring everyone together. It's a very underrated industry which has never quite got its due, but it's a very beautiful industry because there's so much talent in there, there's so much creativity in there. Comic book artists by nature, I think a lot of them are quite introverted, so over time I felt that no one's really given them a proper voice, and that's a lot of what me and Ben wanted to do, actually elevate this quite a cool, funky, colourful, sexy, geeky, whatever you want to call it, but it's a beautiful industry, and that's, from there. At first it was, started off in Australia, Sydney, but I sort of been blogging in various movie blogging scenes for a long time. So I thought, wait a minute, I'll cast the net out a bit further. All of a sudden, Ben managed to rope in titles from Europe, Australia. I bought in 5 or 6 publishing houses from India, and it became a global movement from a local one. Before we knew it, and we started signing everyone on exclusively. And yeah, look, it just one step at a time. We took it to Comic Cons, we took it to Supernovas. Most of our weekends were spent doing this, but before we know it, it just kind of it just moved.
Right. Now, Prashant, where can we find you?
Where can you find me? You can usually find me hanging out, sounds geeky, hanging out at socialwiz.com. You can find me on Twitter at Prashant Hari, or you can find me on my Facebook page, which I'm doing an experiment with right now, where I've sort of combined my personal profile and my business side in one. And if you look me up, Prashant Hari on Facebook, you'll find me on there too.
Thanks, Prashant, and look forward to hearing your marketing week.
Great, thank you, mate. Thank you.